All right, let me show you with using some symbols and charges to help you visualize a little bit better how to balance the charges on these compounds. I'm going to start with this one here that's number 3. Where we've got barium oxide reacts with water to form barium hydroxide. So the first thing I do is I look at my compound, barium oxide. Barium is a metal. Oxide, you can actually look on your polyatomic ion sheet and it tells you that oxide is right here. And so that's just oxygen with its -2 charge. So barium has a +2 charge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab out one atom that has a +2 charge. Oxide, we just looked up, and it's oxygen, which has a -2 charge. So I'm going to write this down. They're balanced off. I need one barium atom and one oxygen atom. So now I'm going to continue to read. It reacts with water, so plus water, and it forms barium hydroxide. So again, in order to balance my charges, I'm going to need to get another barium atom, just one of them. And now hydroxide. Hydroxide is a polyatomic ion. It's right here, hydroxide. So OH. This polyatomic ion, the oxygen and the hydrogen together, are going to have an overall charge of -1. So I've gone ahead and made up a hydroxide ion. So that's right here. So you can see right now that my charges are not balanced. I've got a +2 and I've got one -1 charge. So I don't have the charges balanced. I'm going to need to grab another hydroxide in order to balance off that +2 charge. So now my formula is going to be barium hydroxide. I'm going to put my parentheses around the hydroxide because that's a polyatomic ion. And I need 2 of them, so I'm going to write 2 down below. So now my charges are all balanced. Now I would go ahead and I would balance my reaction out. We're going to save that for another step. So right now I'm just naming these compounds and making sure my formulas are correct, and then I would go ahead and balance these reactions. All right, the next one I'm going to do is this one, which is number 5. Zinc reacts with copper 2 nitrate to form zinc nitrate and copper. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the symbol for zinc. It's just an element by itself. So I have to make sure that is this a diatomic element or is it a monatomic element? Remember the diatomic elements are bromine, iodine, nitrogen, chlorine, hydrogen, oxygen, and fluorine. So that spells Brinkelhoff. So whenever you write these elements down, if they're by themselves, you're going to need that subscript of 2. The diatomic means they have 2 together if they're just an element by itself. Zinc is not one of these, so I can just continue on with my writing my formula. So zinc reacts, so zinc plus, with copper 2 nitrate. Now the Roman numeral behind copper is telling me that the charge on the copper is 2. So I'm going to grab one atom of copper out here. And then I've got my nitrate. I grab my polyatomic ion sheet and look up to see what nitrate is. It's right here, NO3. So I'm going to grab an NO3 out, which is right here, and see if I'm balanced. Well, I have one copper atom with a +2 charge. I have one nitrate with a -1 charge, so I'm not balanced yet. I need to grab out another one. And this is not letting me park these things on top of each other very well. All right, so to balance off the charge on the copper 2, I need to have 2 of those nitrates. So my formula becomes Cu. Again, I'm going to use parentheses because it's a polyatomic ion, NO3, and I needed 2 of them to balance the charges off, so I say that I've got 2. And that forms, there's my arrow, so it yields zinc nitrate. There's my next compound. So zinc, I have to look that up on my polyatomic ion sheet. There's zinc right here, and it tells me it has a +2 charge. So I'm going to grab a atom with a +2 charge right there. Now nitrate, we already know nitrate has a -1 charge, so I'm going to need 1 of those, and then a second one. So now I've got 2 of the nitrates, so I'm ready to write this down. I've got zinc, and again polyatomic ion, so I'm going to write that in parentheses. And I needed 2 of them. And then I'm ready for my copper. Symbol for copper is Cu. It's not in Brinkelhoff, so it's not a diatomic element, and now I've got that written down correctly. All right, the next one I'm going to do is number 10 here. Manganese 2 iodide decomposes when exposed to light to form manganese and iodine. So manganese 2, it's telling me that the manganese has a +2 charge. Iodine has a -1 charge. So I'm going to need 2 iodines to balance off the charge on the manganese. So the formula for this is going to be manganese with 2 of the iodine. It says it decomposes when exposed to light to form manganese and iodine. Now iodine is a diatomic element. When you spell out Brinkelhoff, iodine is one of those diatomic elements, so I need to write it down like this. All right, so I'm going to do this next one where we've got carbon reacts with zinc oxide to produce zinc and carbon dioxide. So carbon is just C. It's monatomic, so I'm just going to write it down the way it is. It reacts with zinc oxide. You look on your polyatomic ion sheet and you'll see that zinc has a +2 charge. So there's 1 atom of zinc. Oxide, when you look on your polyatomic sheet, this ends in IDE. So that's just the atom by itself, so it's just 1 oxygen atom. Those are balanced off by themselves, so we've got zinc with just an oxygen. Produces zinc. Again, it's not in Brinkelhoff, so it's just going to be a monatomic element. And carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a molecular compound, so it tells me I've got 1 carbon and 2 dioxide. So there's that one. I guess we'll just call it quits right there. Hopefully this has helped you out a little bit with understanding why we need to balance the charges when we're converting the words to formulas.